So in your newest book, Mission to Mars, you outline your vision for the future of space exploration. And one of my favorite quotes is when you say, Mars has been flown by, orbited, smacked into, radar examined and rocketed onto, as well as bounced upon, rolled over, shoveled, drilled into, baked, and even blasted. Still to come, Mars being stepped on. So I guess in the big picture of things, what do we as Americans and as a human species stand to gain from a mission to Mars?
I believe it's sort of a destiny of humanity to move outward and not turn around and come back. Now, when you look at history of the humanity, living creatures here on Earth, and project it on several hundred or 1,000 years into the future, the migration, the extending of human presence to another planet in the solar system is going to be a very big deal. It kind of shrivels up Queen Isabella and putting a few dollars in Columbus's hands.
So I guess along those lines, how should we balance the roles of the government and private companies in working toward this goal of putting people on Mars?
Well, there are many ways that the U.S. can provide the overall leadership by building the support systems, the mission controls in the vicinity of the moon on the far side and on the near side that can, in less than a second time delay, control robotic activities on the surface, including building the permanent base on the moon with some of our items that might be commercial. They might be government tests of our habitats that are going to go to other places. And we'll, of course, make those available to the other nations. But then they will build their own extensions to this central permanent base. I think cooperation above the atmosphere may filter down to the surface of the Earth, where there will probably always be human rights, piracy, territorial aggression, secrecy, and arms buildups that tend to make a lot of people nervous in the world.
You don't want to just get to Mars, though. It's not something to check off our list. You actually want us to stay there. What is your motivation for making it a permanent settlement?
Looking at history and projecting forward, much the way that Stephen Hawking did by saying that the Earth has maybe 200 years to establish a growing, sustainable civilization of human beings, because we may find the Earth uninhabitable for varieties of reasons in the future, some of our own making and some of asteroidal impact.
So how do you justify the cost and resources of flying these people to another planet instead of investing in cleaning up the planet we're already on?
Well, we can continue to sweep the streets here and allow the Chinese and the Russians and the Indians and Japan to reap the benefits of advanced technology. And I'm sure along with that will be the economic growth of superiority over a nation that is sitting back and maybe trying to live on past achievements. And it certainly is not inconceivable that we could withdraw from international cooperation challenges instead of reaching out as we have always done. It's the American spirit to go west, young man, and now it's to go outward, young people, middle-aged people, and old guys.
I like that. That's a good mantra. So, from what the rovers have shown us so far, Mars looks like a pretty desolate and inhospitable place. So, what are the practical advantages of living on Mars versus Earth?
I'm sure that we can find that just like the soil of the moon, we can cultivate it with water and certain fertilizers. We're demonstrating, well, we can't really because we haven't brought samples back yet uh, from Mars. But there certainly appears to be a much greater abundance of water in the form of ice, carbon dioxide. There is an atmosphere, even though it's very weak, but it is about like what we have here, a vacuum. You do need a pressure suit. There are seasons on Mars. There's a great variation of topography and surface area that is rather wondrous to behold. A volcanic mountain 90,000 feet above the potential sea level or a base of measurement, and canyons that are much bigger than our Grand Canyon or anything else like it on Earth. There is just tremendous opportunities for science to discover uh, the progress and the evolution of activities in the early solar system on Mars and begin to see what the early solar system was like. Whereas on Earth, uh, the wind and the oceans have pretty much washed away most of the evidence that would give us a pretty good indication of what life was like, or not life, but what conditions were like. Of course, that exists on the moon also, but I believe the potential resources may be greater at Mars, distributed by asteroid impact. Uh, and of course, there is a potential of past life that we may discover. The most important, however, is the progress of technology, of expanding life beyond what we have here on Earth, and it is a challenge to humanity to take advantage of that while we can. And in particular, it is a growing challenge of inspiration to the young people in the United States to elevate the science, technology, engineering, arts, and math that dwindled so much after having progressed so much after the Apollo years.
So, you make it sound like a pretty appealing place. Would you personally want to live on Mars if we were at that point right now?
Would I do that? It's hard to say how I might get caught up in the enthusiasm that I'm sure will exist for a certain group of pioneering, exploring human beings, male and female. And I certainly expect that a society will evolve there with challenges and great opportunities.
What do you think is the most significant obstacle to developing that permanent colony on Mars?
Political short-term objectives that that don't that care more about, let's say, getting reelected than what's best for the nation in 10, 20, 30, 40 years.
What do you think it will take for us to come together and rally around the Mars mission like we did for the moon landing?
Well, you can never totally recreate a situation Those were conditions that were quite a bit different than those that exist today. Uh, I think those aggressive tendencies could be toned down if there was indeed a significant exchange and cooperation uh, in space endeavors, relying on each other uh, to support each other in space.
How does your role as the ACT spokesperson fit into your larger vision?
Axe people came to me, and I began thinking about what they were offering, and it became, uh, in some ways, even better than anything I had thought of. I hope that the returns that will be demonstrated to the for profit company of Unilever and Axe and the enthusiasm that it gains will convince them to continue to uh, support activities like that as they mature eventually into orbital flight. Uh, so I'm pretty optimistic about doing things that excite the human, the public, in what growth uh, will happen as it did between Mercury, one man, Gemini, two people, and then Apollo with three people, and then into long stays in orbit with the Skylab equipment, and then growing into the use of much more people and cargo and building a space station. Uh, that's a pretty good track record, and I think we need to think carefully about whether we want to expend our resources on government people going back to land on the moon versus planning to take government and commercial cooperative activities with other nations to extend humanity's occupation to the planet Mars.